he was with me, begging forgiveness, telling me to take a moment, and he would see it, and we were meant to be together. And I sacrificed a lot of myself to come out successful on the other side.
Kevin Hunter's empire has collapsed faster than anyone expected. The man who once strutted through television studios and fur coats and sports cars. The man who positioned himself as the power behind Wendy Williams' talk show throne is now drowning in lawsuits, debt, and public humiliation. After years of living off the fortune that his ex-wife built, Hunter's high-rolling lifestyle has been stripped away piece by piece. Court filings from 2023 show he fell behind on his homeowner fees, defaulted on his credit cards, and was even sued by a bank for more than $20,000. It is a financial implosion that reads like poetic justice, arriving just as Wendy herself begins to claw her way back into public view.
It happened, the banks froze everything up. Yeah. He was not in a position to pay $10,000 a month on a property.
The timing could not be more symbolic, as Kevin's name shows up in court documents for unpaid bills and car liquidations. Wendy Williams, once declared unfit to manage her own affairs, is seen sitting front row at Lon Smith's New York Fashion Week show. September 2025. Cameras flash as she waves to fans. Makeup immaculate, her blonde hair flowing. It is the image of a woman reclaiming her identity while her former partner's empire burns. A few years ago, the roles were reversed. Wendy was the one under scrutiny. Isolated in a high-priced facility she called a luxury prison. Kevin was still posting motivational quotes and driving luxury cars, pretending that his new relationship with Sharina Hudson had set him free. Now, the silence from his camp tells a different story. Hunter's legal strategy collapsed in court earlier this year when a New Jersey judge ruled that Wendy would not have to resume paying him alimony. 4 years, those payments were his lifeline, $37,500 a month, according to sealed divorce records. When the check stopped in early 2022, Kevin filed a series of demands claiming financial hardship. He told the court he could not pay his homeowner fees, his insurance, or his credit cards. The judge's response was blunt. None of this was Wendy's problem. The decision not only shut down his appeal, but also exposed just how dependent he had been on her money long after their split. Sorry. Behind the scenes, insiders say the judgment sent shock waves through his personal life. Sharina Hudson, once portrayed as the picture of soft life luxury, allegedly panicked when the cash flow stopped. Sources close to the couple claimed that she started pushing new ventures, lifestyle branding, a vegan chef business, and small-scale real estate work, but none of them brought in enough to maintain their Florida lifestyle. By mid-2025, the home they once shared was listed for sale, and creditors were closing in. When Kevin began liquidating his assets, including 2 luxury vehicles sold to a financing firm in Idaho, rumors circulated that Sharina had left him. His Instagram, once filled with posts of her, was wiped clean, except for a few business plugs. Within weeks, whispers surfaced that she wanted him back. The contrast with Wendy's new public image is hard to ignore. Only months earlier, she had been fighting the guardianship that keeps her under supervision at a Manhattan assisted living facility. The court had labeled her legally incapacitated. Yet, anyone who saw her at Fashion Week saw a woman who looked sharp, even defiant. In phone interviews, she called the facility a dump and a messed up situation. Furious that she was confined to a floor full of elderly residents. She complained that she could only make outgoing calls, not receive them. And she said the court-appointed guardian, attorney Sabrina Morezi, did not want her to have an iPad, something she uses to listen to old recordings of her radio show. These are not the words of a woman who has lost her mind. They are the words of someone fighting to be her.
In a court proceeding that has nothing to do with Wendy's career. Moreover, that were made in front of Wendy Williams. If true, that is outrageous because this judge, one, she's not in the entertainment industry, so I don't know where she would get off opining about that and why that's even relevant to her role as a judge, who's basically a judge of the law, and in this case, judge.
While Wendy's fans rallied under the Free Wendy banner, Kevin tried to turn her story into his own cause. In June 2024, he filed a sweeping federal lawsuit accusing the guardianship system of corruption, calling it fraudulent bondage and demanding $250 million in damages to be shared between him and his ex-wife. Legal observers dismissed the filing as delusional, pointing out that Hunter has no standing to sue on Wendy's behalf. The case was effectively gone on arrival. But in the court of public opinion, the move reignited speculation about his motives. Was he really fighting for Wendy's freedom or just looking for a payout now that his alimony was gone? The couple's shared history makes the question unavoidable. Kevin met Wendy in the mid-90s, became her manager, and built himself into a producer without credentials.
An inordinate amount of people that took advantage of my absence, and her vulnerability at the time.
Colleagues at the Wendy Williams show described him as domineering, loud, and intimidating. A man who moved through the studio like he owned it. When their marriage imploded in 2019 after his long-term affair with Sharina became public, the the fallout was immediate. Wendy filed for divorce, fired him from the show, and removed his name from all company paperwork. Within months, Sharina gave birth to a daughter, and the new family began living off Wendy's money. Now, insiders say that arrangement has finally collapsed. Sharina's image as the glamorous side partner has faded. She was once known for posting luxury brunches and vacation photos. Now, the most she shares online are short clips promoting her vegan recipes or modest real estate listings. Industry sources in Florida describe her as scrambling. Some even claim she has been reaching out to old friends, asking for help reconnecting with Kevin after months of separation. If true, it would mark a full circle moment. The woman who helped destroy a marriage is now pleading with the same man who cannot pay his bills. Whether they are back together is unclear, but what is certain is that their soft life fantasy has evaporated.
I am so excited to introduce you guys these pancakes with only 3 ingredients. Baby, when I tell you these things gonna be so
Meanwhile, Wendy's circumstances remain both tragic and bizarre. Since 2022, she has lived under a court order that dictates everything from her finances to her daily routine. The arrangement began when Wells Fargo claimed she was of unsound mind and froze her accounts. A judge later appointed Morrissey as her guardian, a decision her family continues to challenge. In 2024, a Lifetime documentary titled Where is Wendy Williams? Showed her appearing disoriented and isolated in her apartment. But in recent months, Wendy has re-emerged with clarity, telling radio hosts, "I'm not cognitively impaired." Her publicist, Sean Zanotti, insists she doesn't miss a beat. Even her former producer says she's the best she's been in years. Every appearance now feels like a statement, proof that she still knows exactly who she is. Kevin, on the other hand, seems to be unraveling. The court dismissals have exposed how dependent he became on Wendy's brand. The business ventures he launched after their divorce, a publishing group, a health line and a podcast concept, have all gone quiet. In June 2025, fans noticed that his Florida property was listed below market value, signaling distress. Around the same time, creditors obtained judgments against him for unpaid fees. He has yet to comment publicly, though he occasionally posts cryptic messages about faith and resilience. The bravado that once defined him has faded into a pattern of avoidance.
I mean, I take accountability for my actions, for what's obvious out there, obviously.
It is impossible not to see the irony. The man who once controlled Wendy's career, managed her money, and dictated her image now has no control over his own finances. The woman he built his new life around may no longer want to share it. And the woman he dismissed, the one the system labeled incapacitated, is the only one still standing in the spotlight. Each new photograph of Wendy outside the facility smiling in designer clothes is like a mirror held up to Kevin's decline. Even fans online have noted it. She's smiling while he's selling cars. Whether Wendy herself has seen the coverage is unclear, but insiders at the facility claim that she reads entertainment news on her tablet and reacts with dry amusement.
And I can't figure out, why is there a gag order in this case that Wendy can't talk about her circumstances? Why is the judge doing it?
That aside,
there is something
that's even
way bigger.
The legal drama surrounding her guardianship, however, could soon reopen old wounds. In filings last summer, Kevin accused the judge overseeing the case of political bias, claiming she accepted donations from attorneys connected to Wells Fargo. The allegations were unproven, but they hint at how personal his obsession has become. Some close to Wendy believe he still sees himself as her savior or her beneficiary, and that his recent financial collapse may drive him to reinsert himself into her story. Others believe that Sharina's rumored plea to reunite is less about love and more about survival. With their shared finances under pressure and Wendy's estate still tied up in court, both may be searching for a way back into the narrative that once made them rich. And that's when the whisper started turning into something louder. We began hearing that Kevin's financial meltdown might not be a solo disaster but part of a much bigger, more tangled story. The kind of mess that doesn't just ruin reputations, it exposes entire systems. Some insiders swear that his money problems are tied to Wendy's ongoing guardianship fight. That maybe, just maybe, his so-called crusade to set her free wasn't about love at all, but about regaining access to her lockdown fortune. It's the theory that's quietly circulating through industry circles. Kevin wasn't just suing out of pride. He was suing out of panic. This is one of the most outrageous things I have heard in a long time. In a case that has been filled with because behind that guardianship sits a pool of money. Millions in television residuals, production royalties, and frozen assets that nobody outside that court can touch. The same money Kevin once managed. The same money Sharina allegedly depended on to fund her luxury lifestyle. When the accounts froze, their world cracked. So when Kevin filed his explosive $250 million lawsuit against Wendy's guardian and the financial institutions involved, some saw a desperate man clinging to his last shot at wealth. Others saw something more sinister, a man trying to drag Wendy's entire legal structure down with him, either to prove a point or take everyone with him when he falls. Former staff from the Wendy Williams show have started speaking more openly now that the empire has crumbled. One of them told a podcast host that Kevin always acted like the show was his, not Wendy's. They described secret meetings, sudden firings, and a mysterious string of production deals that seemed to vanish without trace. A pattern of control. And when you add the recent court filings, his unpaid credit lines, his frozen accounts, and his eviction notices, the image gets clearer. This isn't just a man falling on hard times. It's someone watching the whole scaffolding of his influence collapse in public view. Meanwhile, the guardianship system surrounding Wendy is attracting its own suspicion. And by the way, the judge doesn't know what she's talking about. I mean, by the way, there are a lot of people clamoring for Wendy to actually get back on the air and to have a show again. When did this judge become Roger Ebert? I mean, I'm serious. Wendy Williams, I know, is a hot commodity right now. I can tell you from the R2B documentary that it attracted a lot of attention. She's done interviews with major outlets. People at the same institution that deemed her incapable of managing her finances somehow continue to drain her accounts to cover luxury living costs at the facility, security, and legal fees. We've seen this before in Hollywood, the so-called protection that ends up looking more like a business arrangement. And we can't help wondering who's really benefiting from Wendy's restricted freedom. Kevin insists it's not her. He told a reporter last year that this system is corrupt to its bones. But those who've tracked his money troubles point out the irony. If Wendy were free, so would her bank accounts be. And who might benefit first if that happened? Sharina's sudden silence adds another layer of intrigue. After years of subtle flexing online, she's practically disappeared from her usual social media haunts. Posts deleted, comments turned off. Real estate ventures quietly folded. A former acquaintance told a Florida gossip blogger that Sharina just couldn't handle the pressure anymore, claiming she'd been cut off financially and forced to sell jewelry to stay afloat. None of this has been verified, but the timing lines up with Kevin's loan defaults and asset sales. If true, it paints a picture of two people watching the walls close in while the woman they betrayed is finally steadying herself. Then there's the son, Wendy's only child, the one she publicly defended even as rumors swirled that he'd been using her credit cards to cover luxury rentals in Miami. Wells Fargo's initial guardianship petition listed financial exploitation concerns without naming names, but multiple outlets have hinted that family tension may have helped justify the court's decision to take control of Wendy's money in the first place. Sources close to production staff claimed that Kevin tried to use those same documents to suggest Wendy was surrounded by manipulators, trying to position himself as the only one who truly understood her. But if that was ever true, why does every move he makes seem to orbit the same thing? Her money. Industry lawyers following the case say it's now spiraling into something much bigger than a celebrity divorce. This is a blueprint for how power moves when someone famous loses control. One attorney told us, guardianships like Wendy's rarely end. They extend, shift, and evolve, often under the guise of care. Kevin's lawsuit may have been reckless, but it spotlighted a system that operates in near secrecy. What happens when fame fades but the money keeps flowing? Who steps in when a person's brand is still valuable, even if they're no longer allowed to make decisions? The question lingers, especially when the same people who claim to protect the star also profit from their continued silence. With Han, I've always liked speaking to her, and she's always wanted me to, spend her money. As the months go by, new names keep emerging. Former business managers, assistants, and even lawyers who once handled Wendy's show deals. Some have been subpoenaed in unrelated cases. Others are now refusing to speak on record. A few have hinted that more revelations could surface if federal auditors review the accounts tied to the guardianship. And if that happens, Kevin's downfall could suddenly look like collateral damage from a much larger explosion. He may have set off a chain reaction that exposes not just his greed but the quiet machinery that thrives on celebrity collapse. The tabloids are already framing it as the Wendy Web, a phrase that captures how many people once pulled strings around her. Ex-husband, guardian, bank executives, production partners, and even certain family members, each with their own story, their own justification, and their own share of blame. And now that Kevin's credibility has cratered, some of those same people are moving to rewrite their roles. We've seen this play out countless times. When the former power player falls, everyone else suddenly remembers how much they tried to help. It's the oldest script in show business. Sharina's rumored attempts to reconnect with Kevin might be part of that rewrite. Some believe she wants to realign herself before the next wave of headlines hits, knowing scandal is now reduced to strategic survival. The same pair who once flaunted a mansion and matching cars are now allegedly negotiating over debts and silence. I want to let people know that, we are still only human. And through it all, Wendy's voice keeps resurfacing like a ghost breaking through static. I'm not crazy. I'm not gone, she said during a recorded phone call last year. Every word was slurred but fierce, full of that old fire. Whether it was clarity or defiance, it sounded like a warning to anyone who thought she'd never return. And maybe that's what really haunts Kevin now. For all his lawsuits and public pleas, he knows she still has the one thing he can't buy back, her audience's sympathy. If the guardianship system ever cracks open, if Wendy regains even partial control of her assets, it could rewrite the narrative completely. Imagine the headlines. The comeback of a talk show legend, free at last, reclaiming the fortune everyone else tried to manage for her. For Kevin and Sharina, that scenario could mean more than embarrassment. It could mean exposure. Because once money trails are audited, motives start to look different. We've reached a strange crossroads in this saga. The man who tried to control Wendy's career is now controlled by debt. The woman who lost her voice on camera is quietly finding it again. And the mistress who lived like a star is fading into the background. Her luxury dreams turned into cautionary whispers. But beneath the surface, something bigger is still moving. A reckoning not just for Kevin Hunter, but for everyone who fed on Wendy Williams' fame while pretending to protect her. And we can't help wondering what happens when the woman they all counted out finally gets her say. Could Wendy's freedom be the final twist that topples everyone who used her downfall for profit? Or will the same forces that silenced her once tighten their grip before she can speak again? Let us know what you think below, because this story is far from over. Until next time, keep your eyes open and your tea hot.